Hi, and welcome to the Control Engineering Webcast, Digital Transformation Acceleration, sponsored by Honeywell and Oracle NetSuite. I'm your moderator, Gary Cohen. Happy to join you today on behalf of Control Engineering and CFE Media and Technology. CFE Media has met the standards and requirements of the Registered Continuing Education Program. Credit earned on completion of this program will be reported to RCEP at rcep.net. A certificate of completion will be issued to each participant. As such, it does not include any content that may be deemed or construed to be an approval or endorsement by RCEP. So we'll go with the course overview just to make sure you're all in the right classroom, as the teachers used to say. So when digital transformation is used from design through the product lifestyle for industrial assets, the results can be transformational. So what is digital transformation? What does it include? What are digital twins? If you haven't started, where should you start? If you have, what's next? Where is your organization, especially compared to the competition, on the digital transformation maturity levels? We'll cover all of these topics today with our guest speakers. Quickly go over the learning objectives. So today we're going to talk about examining digital transformation in context of automation, controls, and instrumentation. We'll review the diversity of digital transformation initiatives. We'll assess your organization's progress in the digital transformation maturity level. We'll discover digital transformation project benefits, and we'll learn how to begin or accelerate digital transformation efforts. So to get the best results from this webcast platform, please make note of the following as you participate in today's event. If you're having technical problems, just click on the question mark at the top right-hand corner of your screen. That'll bring up a list of system checks to make before escalating any problem that you have to an online technician. If you're experiencing issues with your slides or audio, please just refresh your browser or click the Refresh Media button directly under the presenter's headshot. You can control the volume settings of this webcast by adjusting the volume on your computer or by adjusting the volume on the webcast platform. If you do need a technician at any point, just type a message into the Ask a Question box and someone will get to you as quickly as possible. Answers to your technical questions will be in the Answered Questions box on the left-hand side of your screen. You can also use the Ask a Question box on the left-hand side of your screen to type questions for the speakers during the presentation for the Q&A session at the end. You can ask questions at any time during the presentation, and then at the end, Jim and Laura and I will get to as many as time allows. Questions that are for today's presenters will be answered verbally during the Q&A session at the end of the webcast. To download the presentation slides, use the Event Resources area on the left-hand side of your screen. To take the Learning Unit exam, use the Learning Unit Exam tab option at the top of your screen, and then the exam will open up in a new browser window. You can complete the exam after the webcast. However, the link will break when this webcast signs off. The exam will then be posted with the on-demand version of the webcast. And the exam is for 1 RCEP ACEC Certified Professional Development Hour. This webcast is being recorded, including the Q&A session. We'll post the archive on the Control Engineering website in a few days, and we'll send you an email with a link to the archive once it's ready. This event is a live educational webcast presented on May 4th, 2021. So May the 4th be with you if you're into that kind of thing. The educational category is technical, health, and safety. Now we're going to hear from the sponsor of today's webcast, Honeywell and Oracle NetSuite. At the conclusion of this video, you may experience a few seconds of silence. That's just to compensate for the varied internet speeds. So please stay tuned after the videos for today's presentation.
If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. I learned this the hard way with my first company, so I created NetSuite, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you the visibility and control you need to make smart decisions and grow with confidence. That's why companies who use NetSuite grow 3 times faster than the S&P 500.
Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/grow.
All right. You guys definitely did not come here to listen to me speak today, so I am happy to introduce today's distinguished speakers. Jim Mansfield. Let me bring up their pictures here. Jim Mansfield, Senior Manager of Matrix Technologies, Inc., and Lori Cavanaugh, Business Development Manager of E-Technologies. Lori, with more than 30 years of experience in system integration, Lori Cavanaugh focuses on solving the right problems to deliver the most value to manufacturing and process customers. Her practice is rooted in the power of creating true partnerships with customers, from the start of the problem solution journey through the implementation and ongoing support. In an expanding role as Business Development Manager for E-Technologies, Cavanaugh is connected with existing and new customers in food and beverage, aerospace, consumer packaged goods, automotive, and life science industries. With more than 400 technical team members across 14 U.S. offices, she represents a team that's able to respond to larger and more diverse projects, offering localized delivery and support with coordination and consistency that reduces risk. E-Technologies expanded its geographic reach and subject matter expertise by uniting several leading U.S. engineering companies, Glenmount Global Solutions, Superior Controls, and Banks Integration Group, to give clients access to engineering resources with deep domain expertise. Jim Mansfield has a 30-plus year record of notable achievements in leading digital transformation solutions, where information technology and operational technology converge to solve the most complex business challenges. His subject matter expertise spans multiple disciplines within multiple markets, including development of data-driven solutions and the change management, change acceleration processes required to make change stick. As a thought-leading senior manager of manufacturing solutions and systems, Mansfield has successfully led clients and execution teams through the often difficult journey of defining and implementing manufacturing execution systems, manufacturing operation management, and industrial Internet of Things programs that enable clients to realize smart factory and connected enterprise benefits. Mansfield's also a military veteran of the U.S. Navy, previously attached to the USN's anti-submarine warfare squadrons. He's a published author and frequent guest speaker on change management, IIoT, integrating energy and manufacturing data, interactive planning processes, and the Industry 3.0 to Industry 4.0 journey. Also, just so you guys know, these people are not only very knowledgeable, but I've also found them to be very entertaining. Not to put any added pressure on you, Lori and Jim. Jim, I'm going to hand it over to you. The floor is all yours.
Gary, thanks a bunch. I appreciate the intros. Lori and I are just resoundingly honored to be here today to be able to run through our specific thoughts on digital transformation acceleration. To that end, let's go ahead and get kicked off and going. Digital transformation, you'll see the acronym DT or DX. We live in a world of acronym soup. And those two acronyms and digital transformation as a whole means a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people inside of a whole lot of different markets and industries and within many layers inside of the entire manufacturing business model. For me, personally, digital transformation is really a journey around moving from manual data collection processes onto and paper-based reporting onto the collection of data, adding context to that data automatically, and then delivering it to the right person or the right business unit or equipment or device at the right time to drive continuous improvement and autonomous decision making. Quite simply, people, processes, machine, and system learning all become enabled during this digital transformation journey. Knowing the questions to ask of whom, what, when, how, these are all the ones that are going to drive acceleration to your digital transformation journey. I referenced automation decision making just a minute ago, and I want to dig a little deeper there. In this context, for me, automation decision making is really the ability to recognize a problem or select a goal and make decisions towards solving problems or achieving goals based on their own volition. And that could be meaning could be a human, a device, machine, system, or process. So in the context of DX in automation controls and instrumentation, it's currently represented fairly well in the supervisory control, data acquisition, manufacturing operations in the MES layers today. And as part of that DX journey, companies are, again, beginning to move from manual information gathering and paper. I can't tell you how many plants today I walk through and still see the boards with paper hanging up on the walls next to a specific piece of equipment, and then moving that over to the automated data collection and dissemination of that specific data within the plant through HMI, or human machine interface visualization. Some of you will refer to as graphical user interface, and the reporting thereof, and then move as this journey goes on, that real-time visualization to the automated decision making in real time, and you'll end up getting to the point to where the changing context and delivery of the data can now be used to further automate the decision-making process at the right person, device to device, machine to machine. I spoke about it earlier, and you'll notice these bottom two really are unmanned operations, and hopefully making great decisions on their own. So if I think about in the context of digital transformation and machine learning, think about metrics and information that are inside the manufacturing facility that are really important to overall production. There's a bunch of them, and we certainly don't have that long to dig into all of them. But let's consider equipment downtime, any specific operator issues that are within the plant. At the end of the day, the list can go on, and it's just a whirlwind. And every day it seems like there's going to be something different set of problems to deal with, different opportunities for improvement that present themselves. And at the end of the day, if I do end up wanting to make a change in a specific area or a piece of equipment, how do I know it's not going to cause issues upline or downline when we're looking at integrated manufacturing lines? And the quick answer is quite simply because the data and equipment is telling us so. And that's really the power of digital transformation as you begin to get into machine and system learning. Machines and processes having that ability to adjust based on input from another machine or process, or in some cases a person. Operators are able to truly change a variable process setting with knowledge that it's not going to cause issues upline or downline. And again, that in result, again, why? Because the equipment and systems are telling us so based on digital transformation. There's so many different initiatives that are currently available or being looked at today when you start talking about digital transformation. Just this topic can take up an entire presentation of this length. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes and dive into just a couple here. First, let's hit I-4O, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or I-4. It's referred to as a bunch, but a bunch of different things. But I-4O factories have machines which are augmented with wired and wireless connectivity and sensors. They're connected to a system that can visualize an entire production line of process. They make decisions on their own. Remember, I was talking about getting to that autonomous decision making. And I-4O, for me, simplified, is that trend towards a deeper production process automation, data collection, and exchange in manufacturing technologies and overall processes. They include cyber physical systems, IoT, IIoT, sensor-based interaction, cloud computing, cognitive computing, and AI, or getting into artificial intelligence. And I'm sure likely we'll get this question on cyber physical systems. They integrate sensing, computation, control, and networking into physical objects and infrastructure that are connected to each other via the intranet or internet. I think another big one that we're seeing in manufacturing is in cobots. No, not robots. Robots are there. Cobots, the collaborative side, right? Collaborative robots. These are robots that are used for direct human interaction within a shared location or shared space. Unlike traditional robots, they are fully automated to do very specialized tasks like pumping, packing, labeling, etc. Normally isolated, and those robots work on their own. They're high speed, they can be dangerous to be around, and are often seen as a threat to human jobs. Cobots, on the other hand, are more intended to work directly with humans, focused on repetitive tasks. Think about maybe inspection, picking, enabling workers really to focus more on tasks that truly require a much deeper set of skills in solving problems. So think efficiency, effectiveness, and enhancement at that layer. I think the fourth one I want to pick on today is going to be IIoT, or the subset of IoT, the Internet of Things, IoT being a subset of that, the industrial and its application there. And if you ask 100 different people, you're likely going to get 100 different answers as to what IIoT is. I've literally heard dozens and dozens of definitions. One that makes the most sense to me is a definition around machine, computers, people, enabling intelligent industrial automations using advanced data analytics for transformation of any number of business outcomes. In the context of digital transformation, I believe the advantages of the frameworks and the systems within the IoT space that they can operate semi-independently or with minimal human interaction, intervention, or whatever. There's quite a few in there. So we're looking at improved and intelligent connectivity between devices and equipment or machines, increased efficiency, cost savings, time savings, enhanced safety. Energy efficiency comes in there, and the improvement of energy effectiveness. Energy is an ingredient, if you will. And then those organizations that are looking to move away from traditional preventative maintenance rounds to a more prescriptive or even predictive maintenance platform. I think the last one here I'm going to go into is going to be a little bit around machine learning. Machine learning is a branch within DX and can, I think, be referred to as a technique applied in AI or artificial intelligence type initiatives. It's focused on building applications that truly learn from data collected to improve accuracy over time, and are able to do so without being programmed to do so. So machine learning really relies on both what we'll call supervised and unsupervised algorithms. From a definition standpoint, supervised algorithms need humans to provide the input and the desired output combined with machine feedback for the purpose of training a specific piece of equipment. Once training is completed, the algorithm will apply what is learned to the new data sets, wash, rinse, repeat. Unsupervised algorithms really don't need that level of training. They utilize an iterative approach to reviewing data and arriving at their own conclusions. I'm almost certainly backing back around to my initial thoughts around autonomous decision making. But that said, as you begin to think about machine learning or process learning, I suggest you really brush up on your analytics and mathematical knowledge as you dig deeper. Linear algebra for data analysis, mathematical analysis. We're talking about derivatives and gradients here. Probability theory and statistics, multivariate calculus, algorithms, and complex optimizations. There's a lot into it. And for those of you that are undertaking that journey right now in machine learning, you can ask 100 different people what are the best program languages to be used, and I would say 8 out of 10 are going to come back and tell you probably Python is the most widely used. It's just been proven time and time again to be really one of the more easier languages to deal with. Others might include JavaScript, C#, C++, Scala. There's several others. All have their pluses and minuses, and maybe better suited depending upon the type of application. But do your research early on. All right. So change management, something that is absolutely near and dear to my heart. If you're not prepping for it, your digital transformation journey is going to end up failing. Probably one of the most crucial steps in any successful initiative associated with any type of DX or DT. If you don't plan for change, it's likely never going to occur. If it does occur, it's not going to be sticky. So at the end of the day, don't wait until you're halfway or even a quarter way through your journey. Start thinking about things now. So I want to go through a couple of pieces. Some of the goals in change management that we look for is workforce enablement and empowerment. This is ensuring that your employees are recognized and supported during the journey and empowered to support that change. Workforce ROI, or return on investment. Changes associated with digital transformation are likely being installed to improve efficiency and overall productivity of workforce and equipment. Metrics you're going to develop and monitor to try to capture, the positive change that's happening. You should see your workforce and assets doing their work better, faster, and at the end of the day, promoting a very successful journey. Your competitive edge as an organization, you're likely going through your DX journey simply to get better at what you do, or focus more on the outcome base of whatever it is that you produce from a quality standpoint, etc. So change management and the inclusion of everyone in the organization is really required to capture or to gain that competitive advantage through reducing costs, specialization, the innovation that is there around digital transformation, digging into quality and operational excellence. So as we move forward, and I'll talk a little bit about the journey here. Starting at the assessing from current state, Kavanagh is going to speak eloquently here coming up about moving clients through their digital transformation vision to that well-defined digital transformation reality. So based on the OT assessment and some of the tools that she'll reference, change management team is going to become and prepare to develop their change management strategy and the overall execution plan. Preparing for change. Your change management team really needs to be conscious of the effects of introducing new solutions and what that's going to have on your organization. What are those possible disruptions? How can the change management team plan to minimize these disruptions as you go through your journey? Then moving into planning for change. Plan ahead for some level of disruption and get the word out early and often. Provide your employees with the training resources to adapt to change. Foster a culture that supports change and transformation. If it's not embedded in your culture, chances are you're going to struggle with it. So this is about education, really empowering your champions, your team leaders, your line supervisors, your DLs or division leaders to provide clarity on the why and the benefits of digital transformation. I can't stress it enough. Communicate. Then communicate. And when you're done communicating, communicate some more. Then you move into the implementation of the change as your digital transformation begins to become a reality. Ensure to take an agile and iterative approach to your training. Too much training at one time is going to be daunting and likely is going to be not retained really, really well. Training in subsections during the journey is going to make sure that operations and your leadership teams are better equipped when your digital transformation future state really starts to evolve and become reality. I think the one piece that Gary mentioned earlier in my bio is making change sticky. And I've heard it a bunch, and I still use it a lot because I think it's important. Too many times, the technology stacks that we implement are simply enabling technologies. They do nothing on their own. And unless they're utilized, and unless you've got buy-in, top floor to shop floor, the chances of that technology stack becoming shelfware over time is a real concern. Making change sticky is that agile and iterative training should be repeated as a whole training program just before launch. So as you finish a section, you train, you finish the section, you train, group it together at the end for the detailed training plan. Develop a train-the-trainer program whose sole responsibility is to ensure that operations and leadership have the tools and the help when and where they need it. We need to check in often with them, look at the metrics, continue to communicate, fix what's not working quickly, and re-communicate. Again, continue to think about journey. And then success based on adoption. At the end of the day, if you prepare for change and you plan for change, communicate and train your people. In other words, work your change management plan, you will have a successfully adopted digital transformation. So I'm going to tee this up and kick it over to Lori, and look forward to seeing more questions about this content and Lori's content as we get towards the end of this. Lori, you have the helm.
All right. Thanks, Jim. So Jim really nailed it, right, with the why around digital transformation. I think there's no confusion that there aren't benefits to be had. But I would contend that the change adoption comes from an effective change management program and execution. So what I want to talk about, I guess, in my slide presentation is, what are the challenges we're facing right now, right? We all want to get someplace. We know that there's benefits to the journey and the destination, but there are some constraints, and we have to be honest with ourselves on what those challenges are. So I'm going to talk a little bit about basically some of the challenges, a success story snapshot that'll talk about kind of the modern IT/OT assessment approach and how that slowing down actually helped them accelerate their digital transformation. So just want to check things. Okay, great. So basically, anybody that knows me is going to laugh when they hear me say, we need to slow down in order to speed up. But let's talk a little bit about the state of the state. Like, where are we today? What are some of the challenges? So we are combating tribalism right now. And I will tell you, we are way more alike than different, the IT side, the OT side. So in my 30-year career, my first part of my career, I was selling digital transformation solutions, out on the factory floors that would feed to the IT systems. Got to know IT very well, got to understand the language that they speak and the objectives of the ERP systems, et cetera. Then my second half of my career was spent down at that level 2, level 1 layer, machine control, automation, et cetera. Having been on both sides, I tell you, we're way more alike than different. We really are. But some of the reasons that we grew apart was because how we facilitate the assets on either side of, in that front office side, the corporate side versus the operational side was different. And IT just said, we've got these policies and procedures. We don't really understand your world down there. You're going to have to take care of that on your own. Fine. Not a problem. We all operated within the same 4 walls. But I will tell you, when you're looking at this graphic, and it's like, oh, IT is so different from OT, right? IT cares that, it's more about people. There's people in the operation. We talk to operators all the time, and they're interfacing with these technologies. There's engineers, there's maintenance, there's electricians. They're running 7 days a week, sometimes 24 hours a day. It's pretty people intensive. And likewise, if you say operations is all about process and efficiency, IT cares about that too, right? Workflow, how to engage with the customer, how to engage with our vendors more quickly. Money, I have to laugh about this one. Oh yeah, the front office, corporate, all they care about is profitability. I guarantee you, in operations, you ask any salaried, management people, you ask the people on the floor getting bonus on profitability, I think they care about money too. So again, way more alike than different. What's really driving us together is this last piece, right? Because now we want to share information, share data. The data has breached, the four walls of the operation because that information is powerful. It helps us better plan future, development. Hey, COVID caused a huge disruption in several industries where we had customers that spun up 3 or 4 additional production facilities within a year. So you don't think that information was informed by how fast we're running, how efficient we're running, and whether or not there's more demand needed in the market? Absolutely. So we have to share that information. But cybersecurity is real. And the minute operations starts to put something in to help them and IT doesn't know about it, because Jim and I both laughed about this. The operations groups are like, don't tell IT we're doing this. Like the minute we hear that, red flag, right? But there's a reason for that. The tribalism, the division, but now we got to come back together. So bear with me because it's going to seem like we're in a therapy session because we kind of are, because relationships take work. And, but we need these relationships because our tribes are all on the same team, right? We're in the same company. The enemy's out there. The enemy's our competition, right? The enemy is standing still too long and not adapting. So what we've seen in the past 24 months, right, is, okay, great. We're acknowledging we're disconnected, right? We know there's been the separation. We all can, see that. We also have to be clear, there's been mistrust that's developed, right? That comment, hey, don't tell IT. Part of it was just not really understanding how much more alike we are than different. And that's because we really didn't need to talk that much until more recently. So we can't ignore this, absolutely. That's why, to Jim's point, communicate. It's also making sure that you're not communicating within your tribe, but between the tribes, right? We got to get rid of these walls. And then agreeing, right, or acknowledging, that collaboration is a requirement, right? We have to have a shared mission and vision. Let's face it, technology resources right now coming out of college, they want to go like build a web app or do a video game or, work for Google or, there's a lot of competition for technical talent, even the mathematical talent that Jim was alluding to. How do we attract them to the industrial space, right? So we need to share resources because, again, a lot of those same skill sets are applied in both areas. So we've got acknowledgement. So now what can we all agree on? We're going to be committed to this future state, which means we all have to define what future state looks like, and it has to be all those different perspectives, because what the future looks like for operations might be a little different than what the future looks like for IT, but where's that common ground, right? And then driving to what the corporate goals and objectives are. So agree on that future state, and then let's use the nature of the beast, analytical, just the facts, ma'am or mister, let's use how the engineering and technical mind already works and say, why don't we assess where we currently are? And why don't we let that data, most of it can be empirical, some of it's going to be a little bit subjective in terms of like a risk analysis and vulnerability analysis, but let's that drive the plan. Not who has the loudest voice, which division is bigger than the other. Those will factor in at some point, but really, let's let data drive some of that, the planning. And then we can all agree that communicating the plan up, right, top floor, down, shop floor, everything in between, we're the ones stuck in the middle. So we're getting pressure from the top and the bottom. So how do we communicate, early and often, what we're doing? Acknowledgement, agreement, those are the easy parts, right? Hi, I'm Lori. I've got this issue. I acknowledge that I've got this issue. I agree I need to do something about it. Now I actually have to take action. And the fourth A is going to be accountability. And we'll talk about that in the success snapshot. But so what are we going to do? So what does our change management program, and I say our because it is collaborative. So oftentimes we're coming in to help facilitate, right? So what's going to be the program that benefits the organization long-term, but addresses where I always say it's kind of like the 30,000 to 20,000 to 10,000 foot level as the plane is landing, but operations is really where that's where the planes are landing and taking off and baggage handling is happening and, food service is getting delivered. So there's a lot of activity happening. So how do we still meet everybody's goals and objectives? Is there that empirical data that informs the decisions? Again, there's still going to be emotion. There's still going to be people jacking and dying for, dollars or prioritization. But at least we have a basis of information. We have a baseline of knowledge. And then once we have all that information, so what, right? What are we going to do with it? Is corporate going to put a fund together? Is that really going to make the plants bear the burden or cost to remediate to get us to that future state? Not only where's the funding going to come from, but who's responsible for what? What's my part in this? What's in it for me? What's expected of me? So that's the action part. I will tell you that in this success story snapshot that I'm going to be going through, the behaviors are going to speak louder than the words. You can put all the fancy slides you want together and you could say, hey, we're corporate and we're here to help. But until they start seeing the behavior, the follow-up, the follow-through, and the action, that's where the change adoption or, just naturally occurs. But that's truly where change management just becomes, it's just a behavior. It's already ingrained. So before I get into the success story snapshot, I always love little sayings and slides and stuff like that. So, you guys maybe have heard of this, right? If you don't know exactly where you're going, how will you know when you get there? That kind of implies that we're going to just really take some time and figure out our entire roadmap and all the different variations and options. But for those of you in operations, that's not reality, right? We got to get product out the door. There's this new vendor that came in. They got this cobot. It's really cool. It's going to make us more efficient. Let's throw that in there. And they're going to support us remotely. So the VPN is going to, we're going to give them access, and all of a sudden people find out there's a security breach, and how'd that happen? Well, somebody left the VPN credentials, sitting on the table. Anyway, so this is less likely to happen. What's more likely to happen is, and I'm a fan of Yogi Berra-isms, if you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else. So that's exactly the reality, and we're in a no judgment zone when we're walking into operations to assess things. There's someplace, there's that cobot, there's that, did anybody talk to IT? No, because they don't talk to IT. So that's okay. We just have to assess where we are, right? Well, we're definitely someplace else because there probably was not some, roadmap. Let's get to the good stuff. So to me, I love learning from others and continuing to iterate and evolve along with our customers. So in the opening intro, my bio, it's all about trying to be a problem solver, right? I tell people, don't call me a salesperson, those are fighting words. We're here to just define what the problems are and figure out solutions and options. So the modern OT assessment really can drive a more effective change. So the design, for those of us, right, in engineering, you usually start with the design. What's our plan? What's our strategy? The design is actually a collaborative workshop. We can acknowledge we need to work together. We can agree we need to work together. Now we actually have to act. We have to act on that. So a collaborative workshop really helps define all of these things. So you have to have executive sponsorship, at least one. There has to be one person who said, yep, this is my initiative. And then there's got to be IT and OT stakeholders. Stakeholders are different than shareholders. Shareholders are on the periphery. They like to tune in once in a while and see how things are going. But stakeholders are the ones that really are saying, I'm putting my career out here. I'm putting my professional status, out here. Why are we doing this? What's going to be the so what at the end? How are we going to execute this? If we see what we see, how are we going to, basically affect the change? And then how are we going to measure ourselves? That fourth A, right? The accountability piece. And as far as the assessments themselves, right? Communicate. What's going on? Who's doing what? Why are they scheduling a bunch of people to come walk around? Why are they wearing those visitors vests and they got notepads and are we being sold? So we got to communicate early and often what's going on and what's in it for them. That's why OT has a seat at the table and they're a stakeholder. They can do that advanced communication. Are we adaptive in how we're collecting information? It has to meet that company's objectives, not our own version of what's important. What is their version of what's important? Collecting it on the assets as well as policies and procedures. So the asset assessments, that's the stuff that I said is pretty empirical data, right? What's the age of that asset? How much does it cost to replace it? Can you even get spare parts? Is it supportable, maintainable? The policies and procedures, a little bit softer, a little bit more subjective. But at the end of the day, how do we define risk? And then, did I mention we got to communicate? So that's not a typo. We do have to communicate back around as to what's going to be the value of this information. Then when all of the information is gathered, or maybe there's like a pilot project or something that kind of really sets the stage for how we're going to roll this out to multiple sites, right? You have to get those same people back at the table. So here's what was found. Here's some gap analysis, right? So what's the data telling us? Where are you vulnerable? Where do we think priorities are? But really, it's up to the organization. What are the priorities? What's the plan? What's the remediation plan? What's the, are there defined standards? There's standard products, standard technologies, standard topologies for networking. What are those things and what's the gap? And how are we going to execute that? If there's a lot of work to be done, it can't just be done with one or two partners, but how do you create a small enough ecosystem, a small enough, tight enough group where you can basically teach them, here's going to be the standards, here's going to be how we remediate. We're going to then I call it co-opetition. So, Jim and I work for different integration companies, but there are times we're working with the same customer. So we're competitors sometimes, but in that instance, we're, in a cooperative situation because it's our customer's best interest. So keep the circle small and then start to deliver the results. So I'll be wrapping up here, a couple more slides, but this is what happened. In 2019, companies said, hey, we're going to have 3 vendors give us their take on the modern OT assessment. We're going to pick one. They're going to do a 36-site rollout of assessments. From that, the assessments, we're going to inform, how we're going to spend. We'll budget $5 million, just to do some remediation work. Hey, everybody had skin in the game, right? Executive stepped up, the plant stepped up, and then they did, and this was one that we were fortunate enough to win and be engaged in, but even with COVID, we executed 17 assessments in 2020, compiled that information. It was iterative, so there were things that were learned along the way. And of that $5 million that was earmarked, $4.5 million has already been allocated to remediation projects that are underway or assigned for or in process. Circle is small. There's 4 preferred integrators, 3 preferred OEMs that are going to execute this work. But the cool part is the behavior is what sold the program. In the beginning, there was mistrust, not understanding. We over-communicated again. Trust us, there's something in it for you. This is a corporate-funded thing. And by, December, all of a sudden, everyone's like, whoa, this is really cool. Let's get the processes in place to start to kind of tune this thing so it's a repeatable process. Now you'll see this is where the acceleration is going to occur. So as the OT assessments are getting done and the remediation projects are getting quoted and executed, last week, the customer has upped their commitment from a corporate perspective. They're going to fund $10 million into this then it's going to go to 13 million the next fiscal and 15 million the next. It's possible it could go even more than that, but they saw the empirical data and evidence to prove that, yes, we need to get to a more secure, connected shop floor. How are we going to do that? Now we're going to be off to the races. So we slowed down so we could speed up. And you got to be accountable. So every week, all of the executives can tune into, we participated, this was the customer's idea, to say we got to start tracking all the projects in flight, what's been committed. So up here, you'll see what's been allocated by division, what's been allocated by the preferred SI or OEM, where's the spend going. If you drill into a specific area, you can see how it's being allocated across fiscal years. Visible to anybody, and even the preferred SIs get in there and update their data. So shared, communicated, acknowledged, agreed to, right? We took action, and now we're holding ourselves accountable. So basically, don't choose failure when success is an option. I know it feels a little bit like a therapy session, and it is to a certain degree. You've got to break down the walls, but acceleration is achievable. Just slow the roll just a little bit. Slow the roll just a little. And I think with that, I'm going to just move on. Thank you again very much for the opportunity to present. And Gary, I think back to you.
Thank you, Jim and Lori, for such a great presentation. I appreciate both of your time and insight. Now we do have a little bit of time to answer some questions from the audience. The audience listening live can still type questions for today's presenters in the Ask a Question box on the screen. We'll get to as many as we can. Then within a few days, this presentation will be available for on-demand viewing, along with a link to the quiz for potential PDH credit. We'll post the archive on the Control Engineering website, and we'll send you an email message with a link connecting directly to it and to related resources after it's ready. But let's go ahead and dive in and try to get to as many of these questions as we can. We'll start with, so we have so many things that we could do for digital transformation. Management wants me to do more. Where can I get results to help us accelerate into the next 3 projects after that? I think, Lori, do you want to go ahead and try to tackle that one?
Yeah. I think it kind of just dovetails off of or ties into what I was talking about with the success story snapshot. I mean, definitely learn from others, but it's really truly assessing where you're at today and aligning that with where the organization says they want to go. So let's find where those dots connect. And so, for instance, if it's cybersecurity, then make sure you're assessing the topology and the network infrastructure to see are we bulletproof, and if not, where are the vulnerabilities? And there becomes one scope for a project. Where are we with our asset lifecycle? Where are we vulnerable there? Our operations could go down. We've found a slick 150 for anybody in the control side. That by far right now has been our oldest still working controller that we've seen out there, GE9030 as well. So where are we vulnerable? So that's what I would say is assess, prioritize based on risk and other variables. Pick your top 3, execute those well. And then once you do that, the momentum will start to build.
Excellent. The next question, how does digital transformation acceleration influence the future of education? An important topic.
Hey, Jim, you want to start on that one? I can weigh in after, but.
Yeah, absolutely. I think your major colleges or technology-focused colleges out there are beginning to adapt their curriculums to some of the more advanced mathematics, for instance, that I spoke about earlier. The technical colleges are scratching the surface, and while it's an imperative that we align ourselves, and I'm speaking kind of personal here as systems integrator, with these highly educated, highly degreed individuals, it's really important for us to build from within too. So my hope is that the technical colleges and technical schools will begin to pick up and dig a little deeper into the whole IIoT, fourth industrial revolution piece. The typical engineers that are coming out with industrial engineering or electrical engineering backgrounds there's the educational process over that 4 or 5 year journey is so diverse. I'd love to see a minor or a clear focus in those technologies in the fourth industrial revolution that are maybe are not up to the data science level, but another level just below that. Lori, you got anything to add?
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, the technical stuff is where everybody feels comfortable, right? But we need to push outside the comfort zone a bit. Our engineers and software developers, and we've been hiring both, they also need to understand business, right? They need to understand why the accounting group doesn't just automatically give them the budget for this great idea, because they, so I do feel like we're expanding and pushing people out of the comfort zone. As I said earlier, it's like a therapy session, but you do have to understand that people they basically justify on logic, but they buy on emotion. Same thing if you're selling your idea versus if you're selling, if you're selling a product. We're comfortable in the logic space, but we have to understand that more interpersonal space. And so some of those soft skills, the social interaction, the comfort talking in front of a group of people. And then we are competing, like I said earlier, right, with the cool whiz-bang industries out there. So how do we make, industry cool? How do we make the Industrial Revolution 4.0 journey seem achievable in their lifespan so that they want to come on that journey with us? We need that talent. So anyway, that was just my comment that let's not forget the soft skills and the communication skills that really can make a huge difference.
I think another piece to that, Lori, and I just now thought of it, is really around leadership. You're bringing in these young people out of the colleges and technical schools that need to have a little bit more preparation of what it means to become a leader. Those that want to become leaders, and there's differences. People are going to want to become leaders. Some are just going to want to get in and code for the next 20 years. Yeah,
but I'm going to tell you right now too, and you and I are the same age. We need to get out of their way too, right? Yeah. So we're holding on so tightly that's part of that collaboration is give them the responsibility, listen to what they have to say, because they're coming in with knowing that Python is the best application, and we're still stuck in, well, no, this is how we've always done it. And it's like, time out. Let's collaborate. Let's listen, let's listen to them too. So sometimes,
right?
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. Good stuff.
So this next one is unfortunately relevant to everybody out there, which is how is COVID-19 affecting the speed of digital transformation and how different industries will react to it? Jim, do you want to start us off on that one?
Yeah. Wow. You opened up a can of worms there.
I was just going to say, let me count the ways, yeah.
I think, and it's interesting. I think there's still today, over a year into this, those companies that have been impacted that haven't even started thinking about a recovery plan. How do we recover from it? Some are saying today that, our business is stable. It's been stable all through COVID. It's good. We're not changing a thing. Well, yeah, wow, you just missed the boat too, because every organization that I've talked with has had some level of disruption or very quick, fast change they've had to make in the entire supply chain, soup to nuts. I think those companies that are embracing DX or digital transformation are needing to do so not only on the plant floor, but are needing to do so from a logistics standpoint. Back at the warehouse, track, trace genealogy of raw products coming through the facility, and not ending, but tying it back around to the CRM system that they can get feedback from their customers, right? And just continuing to look at, play with, identify, toy with different data sets that can be impactful to the entire supply chain. I'm gonna shut up, Lori. I know this is a topic of yours that you really like to jump in.
No, it's great. No, it's great because we always, again, multiple perspectives. We come at from different things. I did see a question come in. I know we're kind of getting tight on time, but a question had come in talking about kind of the semiconductor shortage and things like that. And I'm going to weave that into the answer for this other question as well. So when COVID hit, there were two things that happened. Some industries that suffered, so they, still had projects queued up for digital transformation. So they had availability to put the those technologies in, but not the capital, right? On the other hand, I was telling you about customers that we're going to spin up 3 new plants, to make hand sanitizer, or we're going to, people are eating more at home. So the food and, beverage industry was, 7/24. Money, no time. So it's always that conundrum, right? But what we were able to do, when you have a change management plan that has all of that data and has priorities and has the details, you can shift. So you can say, okay, so this is where I'm going to bring in that semiconductor shortage. So we know that there's some control equipment that's being affected and being delayed. So while we might not have the equipment necessary to put in, we can still do the engineering design, still do the programming, still do all the prep work. We've even got some customers where the panels are laying there. Everything's, waiting for that last, few components. So we don't have to slow down what we can control, awaiting for the things that we can't control. But if we didn't know that, if we didn't have the details to tell us that this is the only part that we have to kind of wait on, but we can get all of this other stuff going, we don't have to slow down. We just have to move the things forward that we can control, awaiting the things that we can't. So I'll conclude on that. But yes, the semiconductors has caused a problem, but you can adapt when you have a plan.
As much as I hate to say this, we're probably already on our last question for the day. Let's go with, how dependent are we on foreign manufacture of micron processors needed for digital transformation, and what bandwidth and speed growth will be needed? Laura, do you want to handle that one? Yeah,
so I kind of touched on a little bit saying, there's, because of the global supply chain, and then you have the impact of COVID and the disruption there, it's exposed some vulnerabilities, right, where we have our dependencies. And it's not just, it's all manufacturing. So everything now has technology in it, from automobiles down to how we're making food and medicines and et cetera. So will we see a change? I don't know. It's difficult to spin up those types of capabilities. I think, though, with a plan, you can forecast better to then get yourself in the queue sooner, right? First come, first serve. So if I've got a plan and I know I'm going to be buying hundreds of thousands of this type of part, probably want to put myself in the queue early. And then we're not suffering because we planned ahead. Jim, you want to have any other comments?
No, I think you hit it on the head. It's plan. If you were looking at a 3-month look ahead, you better be looking at 6 months. If you were running well at 6 months, you better be looking a year ahead. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be out of this from a true supply chain standpoint for many, many, many months. Mm-hmm. Just keep it top of mind.
Agreed.
Guys, everybody in the audience, thank you so much for the great questions. Jim and Lori, thanks again for the great answers. We're going to try to get to as many of the unanswered questions that we got today as we can offline. Again, a big thank you to our presenters, Jim Mansfield and Lori Cavanaugh. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
And thanks again to our sponsors, Honeywell and Oracle NetSuite. So now that we're just about done, we still need a little something from you. We want your feedback. So a short survey will pop up on your screen as soon as this webcast event ends. Please take a moment to complete it. We use this information to improve our future webcasts. And finally, on behalf of Control Engineering and CFE Media and Technology, thanks so much for attending. This concludes our webcast. Thank you. Goodbye, and we'll see you next time.